Okay, hello everyone, and sorry for this interruption. Actually, it was something at the same time happening with us. So let's start. Today I'm gonna speak about the WebLogic 101 for DBA. The agenda will be basic concept architect for the WebLogic, installing WebLogic and configuration, configure domain, WebLogic and Java, managing the WebLogic or troubleshooting the WebLogic. Who am I? I am the founder and CEO for the company called Guru Solution, a leader and the director for the Jordan and Amman Oracle. The first Oracle is director in the Middle East, certified OCV, OCE, OCS 10G, 11G, certified ethical hacker on Sun Linux, author for the book Oracle Penetration Testing, and now working on my second one, contributor in the Oracle community and publish different online blog. So the architect for the basic architect for the WebLogic actually, as you see it here from the slides, we have a client PC connected to the infrastructure, for example, or to the network. In the infrastructure, as you see here, we have a web server, application server connected to database. In the web server, it can be OHS. OHS will be redirect the client to the specific server to hide the IP. In this one, actually, we have application server. The application server here, we are talking about the WebLogic. Okay, and once we did all the configuration here, the client can, or the end user can open the WebLogic on the browser. We have a different concept for the WebLogic. Okay, we have something called domain, we have servers, managed server, node manager, cluster, machine. I'm gonna describe each one of them. Okay, as you see here from the graph, we are talking about the admin server. Inside, are talking about the domain. Inside the domain, we have two kind of server: admin server, managed server. The managed server can be configured as the cluster, as you see here from the second row. Okay, the managed server is a group of resource and services. Okay, and I can configure it as the cluster controlled by the admin server. So let's start. What is the domain? The domain is a logical related group of the WebLogic server instance that you can manage from a single set of the configuration. So the domain, it's only logical group related of the configuration, and the instance can single set of the configuration. As you see here, I can run the domain in the two different mode. In the installation, I can run it in the production mode or development mode. I'm gonna describe each one of them later. Okay, and in the domain I have two kind of server. As you see here previously, okay, I talked about admin server and the managed server. So we have two kind of servers. Actually, we have something called server and we have something called cluster. In the servers, there is two kind of servers. As you see, we have talking about the admin server and the managed server. Okay, the server, when I'm talking about the server is the configured instance to the host application and resource. So it can be web app, enterprise app, web service, GMS, JDBC, and different thing. Okay, in the in the WebLogic, I have two different kind of the server. I have admin server and I have managed server. In the administration server, okay, is a central configuration controller for the entry domain. Okay, so I control the entry controller for the domain itself using the administration server. Okay, what else I can do with the admin server? I can host the administration console. I can enable start, stop the server in the admin server. I can enable to deploy the application with the domain. Okay, but there is a tips or hints for the admin server. It can only be one per domain. So all each domain having only one administration server. The domain server controls one domain only. Okay, and for the production use, Oracle recommend that only host the application logic or the resource on the administration server. So if you want to deploy something on the application or to deploy a WAR file, don't use the admin server actually to deploy it. Use Oracle recommend that. So use another server or another resource to deploy it. Another server I have, which is the managed server. The managed server is the running instance that hosts the application and resource needed by those applications, the real workhorses in the WebLogic domain. So each managed server is independent. So if I have, for example, 10 managed server peer the admin server, each one of them will be totally independent of the each okay, and you can have as many as you want from the managed server in the domain. Okay, individual managed server are typically added to the capacity and application isolation. So the managed server is the configuration that can be set by the resource. I can have uh, as many as I want in the administration server, managed server. Each one of them will be independent. As you see here from the graph, okay, we have architect for the very simple managed server here. For example, I deploy a different resource on the managed server. I have GMSQE connected using the JDBC connected to database. This is a very simple architect actually for the managed server, only to let you understand actually what is the managed server. Now I have something else actually called the node manager. The node manager, now I have something called admin server. Inside the admin server I have the managed server, but I need something to interact between each other. The node manager able me to do all of the interaction between these two servers. So the node manager is the utility or the process to running on the physical server. Enable you to start, stop, suspend, restart the WebLogic, okay, and must run on the physical server. So if I need to interact between the admin server and the managed server, I need to run the node manager on the physical server itself, okay, and it's not associated with the specific domain. Once I run it actually in the physical server, it can control all the servers or the admin server in that running on the physical server itself. It's optional. You can use it or not. It's depend actually on the client requirement, but it's easy of use. For example, you can check it, you can run it, you can start, stop, suspend anything you want to do via console. If you don't want to use the console, you have to go physically to the server and start and stop the managed server using the command line. Usually by the default it run on the default port 5556. Okay, if you want to check the availability of the port, you can use the Linux command netstat space minus a and b grep the port number. This is simply graph. Now this is the very, let's say, mid advanced architect for the WebLogic. As you see here, I have an admin console. I have two machines, machine A, machine B. On the machine A, I have admin server running on it, and I have one managed server. But on the machine B, I have three managed server. Okay, the managed server here, three, four, and two running as a cluster, and node manager running on machine A and machine B. Okay, which means that I can control the admin, I can control all of these machines using the admin server console itself. Any question? You can type your question actually in chat. We have, okay, we don't know. So logic installation. Any WebLogic actually step in Java and specification to each WebLogic version. So WebLogic 11G, it's different from WebLogic 12C. With the 12C, I can use JDK8. WebLogic 11, I can use 6 and 7. After that, I can install the middleware home and the WebLogic. Okay. In step number 2, I only installed the binary. I did not configure any domain or any admin server or anything. Configure the domain in step 3. Okay. After that, you need to be careful actually of the Java version. Java version is very important actually when you install the WebLogic. If you choose the wrong version, it's gonna be consume your memory. If you choose unstable version, it's gonna lead for a lot of problems. So you need to be very careful when you choose the Java version. You should choose stable one. As you see here, install the WebLogic. To run the WebLogic command, I suppose, as I said, the step number 1, install the Java. After I installed the Java, I'm running this command, Java minus jar, which is the WebLogic version command. Okay, I press enter, for example, the new screen will be opened. This is the installation for the WebLogic. It will see. As you see here, I have 3 steps already previous: welcome, auto update, and the installation location. The installation location, which is U01 in my case. Press next. After that, I choose the installation type. Example, I choose on Vue middleware infrastructure without examples. Press next. Prerequisite check. It's supposed to be checked and everything successfully. Next. WebLogic give you 3 different installation type. I have WebLogic server, coherence, or complete. WebLogic server, which is already known for everyone, which is a application server. Coherence is the cache server for the WebLogic. For example, if you need something actually to make the WebLogic running faster or your application running faster, I have to install the coherence and configure the coherence and integrate the coherence with the WebLogic, and everything will gonna be cached in the coherence. After that, after I choose the installation, press next. The installation gonna be start. Check the prerequisites. Okay, I need to configure after this step the domain. To run the domain, I have going to this path, WebLogic home, common pin, config.sh, press enter. Here, the installation or configure the domain screen will be started. As you see here, I have a different screen. I have create a new domain or update existing domain. I don't have any domain, so I have to choose the first step, which is create a new domain. The domain location, this is the default location actually for from the Oracle recommendation. So press next. The templates. Okay, if I install here, I did not install any middleware family from Oracle. So for example, if I installed Oracle BI or Oracle SOA or Oracle ODI or a different Fusion middleware, it's gonna be shown up here. So everything you install it as a binary. Okay, later WebLogic will organize it and will be appear here at your domain configuration. So since I don't have any Fusion middleware, I'm gonna choose anything. Press next. As you see here, the WebLogic passwords, the default username, which is WebLogic, the passwords, you should confirm the passwords again. Next. This is the node manager configuration. As you see, this is actually new in the 12C. In the 11G, you're supposed to configure the node manager after you did the installation on the physical server. This is new screen, so you don't have to configure it on the physical server. It will be running immediately. Okay, so I have 2 different type of the node manager. I have peer domain default location or the custom location. So I can choose specific location. Okay, for the node manager, I can, for example, I said you can have more than 1 domain on your physical server with the different ports. Okay, you can have only 1 node manager for each one of the domain. Okay, or you can install it using only 1 node manager for all the domains, or I need, for example, to run three node managers for each of the domains. Okay, benefits of each one of them. If you choose to install actually one node manager for three domains, for example, okay, it's easy for the administration. Okay, but for example, if this node manager is disconnected, all the three domains will be disconnected from the node manager. In the node manager, I can choose the passwords and the usernames to start and stop the node managers as well. Next, I talked about something called the cluster. So the cluster in the WebLogic actually it's totally different from any other cluster. We have a different concept for the WebLogic cluster, a different ways to configure the WebLogic cluster. In the WebLogic cluster, I have active, passive, active, active, something called a migration server. Sorry, migration server, the whole server migration. I have different ways actually to configure a WebLogic cluster. It's depend on the customer requirement and the infrastructure availability. So, for example, some of the customer cannot provide you actually with the whole server migration prerequisite, 7 floating IP, shared storage, and stuff like that. So I'm going to active passive and so on. So it's depend on the customer requirement. What is the benefits of the cluster? The benefits of the cluster are actually scalable. I can parallelism. I can run it through the parallelism. Availability for sure, and load balancing. Okay, failover, I can do it. So if I need to understand the cluster is very well, the cluster is a group of the managed server running and working together to provide increase by scalability and reliability of the application. Uh, for you, when you open the console, actually, the cluster appear as a single instance to the most of the clients. So you don't feel actually this is configured as the cluster. But the WebLogic administrator or the DBA, okay, will understand that the managed server is configured as the cluster. The cluster enables some advanced features. You don't have it as a single node. So the whole server, I talked already about it, such as the whole server migration, servers migration, and the cluster GMS destinations. All of these features actually is very perfect to ensure the availability of the application. So in the graph, as you see here, to understand the cluster, this is actually all you see here is a logical, so the client will not feel it. I have the domain here, the outer box. I have the administration server inside. Inside the administration server, we have 4, okay, managed server, 3 configured as a cluster, and 1 as a standalone. Okay, we are talking here about the cluster 1. Okay, notice that it's also a logical, so the client or the will not feel actually is configured once as a cluster. So once, for example, managed server 1 is down, the client will keep working perfectly without notice anything. So we have two approach in the WebLogic, standalone or the cluster one. In the standalone, for example, I installed everything, the WebLogic, okay, but for example, if my application is down in the standalone, I will have no systems, okay, but in the high availability, I have two approach, active passive or active active. Okay, in the active passive, we have advantage, disadvantage for this one. Active active, I have disadvantage and advantage for this one. I'm gonna talking later about it. But as you see, the scalable one, okay, I for example, I have two nodes, active active. I increase my nodes as many as I want, but with active passive, I can't. I only have two nodes for I only have two nodes, but in active active, I can add nodes as many as I want. This is also a basic concept or article for the WebLogic. As you see here, on the left hand, I have active, okay, connected to the shared storage. Okay, the shared storage having the domain configuration connected to database. I should have here in the active load balancer as a software or as a hardware, but I should have a load balancer. On the right hand, I have active passive configuration. The passive node is totally unusable, okay, and I connected to the shared storage. One can read, only one node can read from the shared storage. In the active, two nodes can read and write at the same time, but here only one can read and write at the same time. I should configure something called the virtual IP. Okay, the client will be connected to the virtual IP. Okay, so if node number one, the active one, is down, it's totally need like 30 seconds, 35 seconds to fail over to the passive one. So the client usually feel the disconnection from the application. Okay, so let's talk about advantage or disadvantage of the WebLogic active passive cluster. The active passive cluster, the good about it actually the cost, easier for the configuration and administration, and if you want a very cheap high availability, actually you can use active passive. No additional hardware because you only have two nodes. All you have to do having the two nodes and configure the two nodes. The bad about it, fail over time. It's gonna take like 30, 35 to 1 minutes for failover. Okay, the second node will not be usable. So, and you cannot install anything else on it because it's only reserved for the WebLogic, and you cannot scale it. If I need to have, for example, you cannot scale it. Active, the good about it, okay, the application will not be hosted as a single node, so you can deploy your application on all the cluster nodes. If you have three nodes, you can deploy your application on the three nodes. If you have two nodes, you can deploy your application on the three nodes. There is no time for the failover. If node number one is down, or the application will be running smoothly without any disconnection. Flexibility, you can add, if you have two nodes, you can add node number 3, 4, 5, and so on. Uh, you should have load balancer as a hardware or a software. You should have a load balancer with active. The bad about it, it's very cost actually from the license perspective or from the hardware perspective. Because you should buy, for example, load balancer. Okay, you need another thing, you need actually more time to manage and administrate the WebLogic, because as you know now you have two nodes, three nodes, you should manage them all together. One of the most important concept in the WebLogic is Java. Before installing WebLogic, I should install Java. There's a certification matrix between WebLogic and Java. You cannot use going to the Oracle portal, okay, and install any Java you want. You should check the certification before, check which Java is stable. Okay, this is the most important thing. For example, we had some of the client issue last year. Okay, they have 64 gig on the server RAM, and the server only was usable for the WebLogic and application deployment. Okay, we faced an issue actually, which is suddenly the 64 gigabyte start consuming, and we have zero free RAM. After checking actually, and we found that the Java version is unstable and consuming the memory on the server. So we switched it and upgraded the Java version to different one. As you see here, WebLogic 11G, you can use Java 5 with the 12C 6 and later, it's okay. Now we have WebLogic 12C release 2, it's gonna take Java 8, and always check the certification matrix as I already said. Now this is If you remember in the first slide, we had actually the basic architect for the WebLogic. This is the typical application architect for any WebLogic server. We have a load balancer. We have two OHS server. The two OHS configured to redirect to the both cluster application. The application server configured as a cluster, as you see, connected to the WebLogic, to the database. The database should be the RAG. This is the typical application for any WebLogic server. Now, why should I know about the WebLogic? As a DBA, actually, it's not your responsibility now only the database. Your responsibility to configure the application, to understand actually the concept of the applications. For example, if your boss asks you to configure Enterprise Manager Cloud, Enterprise Manager Cloud is now having WebLogic, so you need to understand the concept of the WebLogic. If you don't understand the concept, what is the concept of the domain, the server, the managed server, how to deploy the managed server, how to deploy the node manager, to configure the node manager, you will not understand actually how to troubleshoot the application issue. So, for example, Enterprise Manager 12c, 13c having a WebLogic, EBS now is having a WebLogic with the new versions. This is, as you see, the Enterprise Architect, Enterprise Manager Cloud Architect. We have a web server, managed server. The agent will be deployed on the desired server, and it's connected to the different database. In the Enterprise Manager Cloud, we have this screen to configure the WebLogic. As you see, the same as the WebLogic installation. You have username, password. You have node manager, username and password, the location for the OMS, the ports for the WebLogic. Any question till now? As you see here, I'm demo installing using Linux. I already upload the media. Okay, I'm using Java, the Java version example. Install Java 12c. I'm using, as you see here, which is certified with or the WebLogic. As all I have to do is run this comments space minus jar location for the enter. Have free space actually to install the WebLogic. You should configure the prerequisites and for the WebLogic. I'm gonna live demo at the screen. I show it on the slide, but the live demo, which gives actually how to do what is the WebLogic installation is WebLogic. See the file directory concept for the WebLogic, the 12c. Guys, uh, WebLogic, it's very small. It's gonna take some time for it. If anyone having question, please type it in the chat one. Um, uh, this is the was the show demo to manage for the project. Installation, as you see here, the MV, you can choose it by the default. You can. I don't prefer to save it in Oracle, so usually I keep next the welcome screen. Next, if you want the auto updates for the WebLogic, you can connect it to the Oracle. Next, for the Oracle, I choose to keep it under this path, for example, region, and put it here. Next, this is will be actually the installation for the project already because I already choose this one. Uh, the installation type, as I already said, we have WebLogic server, coherent, or complete with the example. Which is the application server, as you see here from the component would be installed. The coherence, which is the cache server for the if you have, for example, this one, and you need to cache the composite to make it faster. You have to install and configure the coherence or complete with the coherent the web project. Next, check the prerequisites for the web project. Notice here, check operating system certification, okay, and check the Java version. These are two important things actually for the prerequisite of the web logic. Okay, once it's successfully, do you want the security update? No. Next, summary for your installation. Okay. Space available, the core and location install. Gonna take some time to install. Notice, sorry, again, I'm here only install the binary. I did not configure any domain, any managed server, or anything. Only here I'm installing the binary of the WebLogic. After I install the binary, I can configure actually the domain and the WebLogic. Back to the slides. Any one of you, please type it in. So let's talk about managing. Managing the WebLogic can be done by access to the physical server or access to the console or the while you on the admin server console command running in the background, okay, of the physical server. For example, if you need to check the logs, you can use the admin server console. If you need to stop or start, uh, hello, yes, yes, okay, perfect, yeah, okay, thank you. But oh, sorry, I just noticed actually the screen is not sharing. Okay, again, okay, for the managing WebLogic, I have two ways. Admin console, I can check the logs. I can check start, stop, anything you can do actually in the physical server, you can do it as a console, because the console already using the command line that exists for the WebLogic on the physical server, but it's easy for the administration. Okay, so you can check the logs, you can start the node manager, stop the admin server, suspend the admin server, run the deployments, everything you can do it actually on the console. Or you can go to the physical servers, okay, and going to this path, domain home, server's name, logs. This is will enable you to check the logs, okay, but you need to understand which log you are gonna look. Okay, for example, if you gonna look to the admin server logs, okay, the path will be domain home servers admin server logs. Okay, if you have many BI, for example, as a managed server, domain home servers, it's gonna be PI server logs and so on. Monitoring tools. Okay, I need to check actually as a DBA job to monitor the WebLogic. Example, for if you have deployment for on the WebLogic application. Okay, this deployment need to be monitored. How I can monitor actually my application? Okay, I can monitor it with three different ways. Okay, pure WebLogic. I can use the WebLogic itself actually, and this is most of the DBA it's using. Monitor the WebLogic using the console. Okay, you can use Enterprise Manager or WebLogic Enterprise Manager. With the WebLogic by default, when you install the WebLogic, you're gonna install Enterprise Manager. The Enterprise Manager actually it's very perfect when you deploy anything on the WebLogic, because it's very easy to use. If you don't like to use WLST command of the WebLogic, if you don't like actually to go to the physical server and start playing with the file configuration, you can use WebLogic Enterprise Manager, or you can use Enterprise Manager 12c. Okay, but we don't have a license. Not all the client actually have a license for the WebLogic for Enterprise 12c. We will back actually again. We will check it now, the live demo. Now, the WebLogic I was talking about the WLST. The WLST actually the interface system between the administrator and the operator. It's a command line. It's totally command line. Okay, so if you need to go in the WebLogic advanced tools, you should use WLST. This is give you scripting environment, the whole environment based on Java. So what you can do as a console, you can do it in WLST. Sometimes the console is down and you cannot access the console due to some configuration issue. You should use WLST. If you need to deploy something in the WebLogic, if you need to configure WebLogic as a single sign-on, you should use these tools. Okay, this is very advanced tools. It can be changed for the local variables, conditional variables, flow control statements. It can be extend the WebLogic. It can do a lot of things you can imagine. You can check actually the Oracle documentation what WLST can do. The benefits of the WLST: retrieve the domain configuration and the runtime information. For example, if you need to know what the WebLogic configuration domain, the console will not show you anything actually like that. It's, it, you should use the WLST. If you need to change any domain configuration file and you don't know actually where is the file location in the WebLogic, you should use the WLST. You can automate a domain job. For I need, for example, to do a job on the WebLogic. Okay, I need to do it automated. Okay, I should use WLST. uh, I can access actually, for example, I already said it that you can run the node manager on the server itself, but you can use the WLST actually to manage the node manager as well. It can be used online and offline. When I said online, that means the admin server is running, server is down. Okay, so as you see here, okay, the WebLogic is Java application server. All the WebLogic process run on JVM. The middleware home is static, which means the domain home contains configuration and logs. But if you need to do it uh, More dynamic, you have to do a lot of configuration. WebLogic console is the first thing you can start with, and it's again part of the DBA job actually to learn about the WebLogic. WebLogic now is a part of e-business suite, enterprise manager, and a lot of other application, as you can see. As you can see here back, to the Linux, we are done. Now I have now I need to create this step. Actually, I'm creating the domain. You see here shown up. I have to update a new domain and update existing domain. I don't have this machine. Create a new location over here. The location. This is the default one. Next, the template. I'm gonna use anything. I'm gonna use, for example, this one. So for the project, next, stated across development mode and the production mode. Development mode, one main, but okay, I need the or the subject will be asked for the username and the password. Each time you're gonna start the domain, it's gonna be asking you for the username and the passwords. For the development mode, once you enter the username and the password for the first time, Oracle gonna create a file called code.properties. This file saves the username and the password. In the production mode, even if you choose put the username or the password, it's gonna keep ask you each time you run the domain. For the security reason, actually, for the production you should use this comment, but for the development you can save the username and the passwords. And the password, after you run it once, it's gonna be encrypted, so no one will know the passwords. This is the Java location for the web project. This is very important. If you have a different Java version in your server, you can check what Java version you are using. Do you need any additional configuration? No. This is the view of the WebLogic article. Create. It will not take actually that much time to create the domain. As you see, it's very fast. Domain created successfully. This is the link. So if press link, should be working. Actually, not should be working because I did not start. Here it's down because I did not start actually the web logic itself. So here password here not be working. Or get one. You see, it cannot be run. Why? Because I did not start actually the managed server itself. You should run actually the scripts to start the managed server, going to the location of the domain, which is this one, base domain. Under this file, you will start something called start WebLogic server. Enter. For take some time to, but should not be take that much time. So, thank you. This is actually in the WebLogic start, let's check the security. Rename the password configured is gonna be configured right. So it's running now. So if I press, now you see it's running. Put the passwords, for example, the passwords running. This is the console of the webcam console. You can see the environment here, the server, what kind of server. I only have the admin server. I can control the server, resume the server, suspend the server. As you see here, I have a cluster. I don't have any cluster. Then now I can come here. I have a coherence cluster as well. I have two server templates or migratable templates. For example, I have a deployment here, or anything. For example, I can deploy anything I want. There is, I need to check that I can press this one. For example, I have, because of this, I still understand which logs you are. I need the admin server logs. I need to check a view. Everything happen admin show now, as you see here. For example, initializing view, it's gonna be give you all the details you need. Okay, if you need using the comic from you and everything, check the different on the console, and as you see, I have different. This is the logs of the Weblogic. Okay, so in the console, or okay, you should know which one you're gonna use, which one you need to know. You should know both of the way availability of the console. DBA, you should have a server actually uh, final of the presentation. Okay, you can follow me on the Twitter at Osama Oracle. This is my blog. You can find a lot of topics actually related to the Vusion middleware. This is my LinkedIn, and you can Google me. Okay, using Google me at Oracle. Without Oracle, this is the results actually as you see here. So if you have any question, please go ahead and ask in the panel. We don't have any questions. Uh, okay. Thank you everyone for attending the session, and thank you Francisco for giving me chance for the webinar. And we have another. I think a presentation about Weblogic and Docker. Okay. So thank you everyone. Have a nice day.